questions. Too many questions. Oh, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Gentlemen, if you'd like to speak, you can go outside, and that's fine. Prior to the start of the scheduled Plan Commission meeting, there'll be two public hearings. The first is a joint public hearing with the Town Plan Commission and a staff representative of the Waukesha County Department of Parks and Land Use, Planning and Zoning Division, to consider a request made by the Lake Pewaukee Sanitary District to amend its conditional use permit to allow for improvements to the existing Lake District Maintenance Building and Site located at N22 W28024 Edgewater Drive. Immediately following the above hearing, a joint public hearing will be held by the Town Plan Commission and the Town Board for a request made by the Church of the Resurrection located at W287 N3700 North Shore Drive to amend its conditional use permit to allow for the leasing of space within the church building, including a secondhand art supply store. The regularly scheduled Plan Commission meeting will begin immediately following the conclusion of the second public hearing. And so with respect to the first public hearing regarding the Lake Pewaukee Sanitary District, I believe there's a presentation from Waukesha County. And please state your name and then your business address.
Emily Goodman, here from Waukesha County. The address is 515 Moreland in Waukesha. And then Jason Fruth is also here with me if there's any additional questions.
Okay. Please proceed.
All right. So this property is located on the north side of Edgewater Drive with frontage to Pewaukee Lake. There is some floodplain along the shoreline. However, none of the floodplain is proposed to be disturbed with this project. This parcel sits on the border of municipal boundaries, so the parcel that's immediately to the east is located within the city of Pewaukee. And that parcel is also owned and operated by the Lake District and used in conjunction with the Delafield property. There's a mix of uses within this area. There are a couple of restaurants to the north. There's a commercial building to the south. And then to the west is the Pewaukee Yacht Club and Sailing School. This is a non-conforming use, and typically non-conforming uses are limited to improvements that equal 50% of their assessed value. So they are applying for a non-conforming conditional use, which will allow them to make improvements beyond that 50% threshold. In both the town and county, this is designated for recreational in the land use plan, and that land use designation is essentially saying that it's a use devoted to both public and private uses related to recreation. So since this is an aquatic use related to the lake, it fits into that land use category. And then this is zoned for B1 business district, which is intended for retail and commercial uses that are low intensity. So for that reason is why they're applying for the legal non-conforming conditional use. So the Lake District, it was established in the 1940s to inspect septic systems and protect the water quality within Pewaukee Lake. Originally, this building was designed to support lab-based work, and they were using chemicals to control the water quality and prevent algae growth. The district has moved away from those practices, and they are using the mechanical manual weed harvester instead. So this use of the weed harvesters, they're stored on the properties, mainly on that Pewaukee City of Pewaukee site. But these are very large equipment, and it allows for a more targeted approach to removing the invasive species while still protecting the native habitat and the natural resources. So as the operations have evolved, the fleet has grown. There's a description of the different types of equipment provided in the exhibits, but there's a shore barge, there's the weed harvester, and there's about 10 pieces of equipment that are stored within this property. The Lake District is operated by 2 full-time staff, and then they have about 16 seasonal staff during the summer months to operate this machinery. The existing building that's on site is just one open room that's used for maintenance and repairs of the lake equipment. And as it exists, this building is kind of functionally obsolete. So these proposed improvements will really allow the Lake District to better serve its mission while also improving the aesthetics within the site. So the improvements include there will be an addition to the east, which will allow for a locker room, bathrooms, and additional office space. There will also be a mezzanine on the second floor. And then the existing garage will remain, and there will be a slight expansion to allow for the maneuvering of the lake equipment. So currently some of the equipment has to be taken apart to even fit in the garage and be maintained. And it's not anticipated that the operations are going to change in any ways with these improvements being made on the site. There will be a slight increase in impervious surface due to these improvements, so they are proposing to apply our treated impervious surface standards. They're proposing to have a rain garden and a rock infiltration system installed on the property. In addition, they are proposing to add a vegetative buffer of native plants along the shoreline on the City of Pewaukee parcel. And there are existing easements on this property between the yacht club and the Lake District for navigability and lake access. So we just want to recognize that it's important for those two parties to continue to work together to make sure that these proposed improvements comply with the existing easements. And the only other thing is the petitioners have requested relief from Waukesha County Board of Appeals for road, shore, and offset, and they've submitted that application to us. With the shallow depth of this parcel and the small size, it's extremely tight while also considering maneuvering the large equipment into the lake. But that's all I have. I have questions, or I'm available for questions, and then the petitioners are also here.
Any questions?
So, plans, the existing garage is gonna stay?
Yes.
And are we approving the concept and the conditional use and the update to the conditional use? Are we also then, again, because we're just seeing this, the paper, I know everything was digital, are we approving the exact building plans today? Is that what are we looking for a motion? I just more of the conditional use, or?
It looks like under new business, it says consideration and recommendation to Waukesha County. So I think we're making a recommendation to Waukesha County for conditional use for the Lake Pewaukee Sanitary District to make improvements.
So it's not necessarily exactly what we've been presented
And then it looks
today?
like under B, it's a site plan / plan of operation as far as the Lake District. But can you speak to it?
So if you think about the conditional use itself, it's going to include all of the site improvements and the building. If you're going to construct an addition like this to that existing building, the improvements would only be limited to 50% of what the existing building is worth. So they will need that conditional use to allow for more funds, essentially, to build and improve this site. So that's what the conditional use part is for, and that is a recommendation to Waukesha County.
Okay.
And that looks like B is the site plan and plan of operation.
Correct.
Under the new business for B.
So I think you could comment on the building plans, I think, as a part of that. Noting that they might be modified a little bit. They do need a variance, like Emily said, so they might, these might not be the final plans. It's more of the site plan changes. They're expanding some concrete. They have the rain garden and the buffer, right? That's happening, and just better maneuverability of the site. So, but
Just go hand in hand.
they just go hand in hand, right?
Yep, it's staying the same.
Are we hearing from Pewaukee Sanitary, for the sake of the people who are maybe are watching live stream? Are we,
I believe they're here.
okay, so I didn't know if we had any other questions.
Any other questions for you? And then with respect to the public hearing portion, now the presentation's been done by Waukesha County. Does the sanitary district wish to speak now, or just when we're voting, when we're actually doing the plan commission meeting? Either that, or you can do your presentation in the plan commission meeting, and we can just allow for the public hearing if there's any comments. Okay, so, and so if there's anyone who wishes to be heard with respect to the first public hearing regarding the Lake Pewaukee Sanitary District, I would ask that you, and there's a gentleman who's walking up, I would ask that you can just please, if you'd like to go along the side, provide, if you haven't already, provide.
Kathy, you want to go first? Yeah.
Okay, and then everyone who is speaking is limited to 3 minutes, and so, just so you're aware of that timing for the speaking today. And so please state your name, and then also state if you've got a business address you prefer to use, that's fine as well, or you can use your personal.
I'm Kathy Sawyer Gudenkunst. I live at North 20 West 29668 East Glen Cove Road. I'm a lifelong resident of the town of Delafield and a member of the Pewaukee Yacht Club, and I pay taxes to the sanitary district. I'm here this evening to speak in favor of the proposed expansion. Tom Kepp and his team do an excellent job, and he is very committed to the well-being of our lake, which I applaud. But I did come on behalf of the Yacht Club. As the county pointed out, we have multiple easements between the sanitary district and the Yacht Club for a well, which is going to be gone, but also several easements as to parking and entry up the side of the Yacht Club's ramp, if you've been there, as well as around the sanitary district. I've spoken to Jason and Tom this week. We recognize, and Tom, you correct me if I'm wrong, we recognize that the turn, now that the building is being expanded to bring a sailboat around with its mast, may be a little snug. So we're going to meet, Mr. Kepp and I and others, and we're going to talk about how best to address that. The variance may play into that because the variance will be heard, I believe, March 11th, as I understand it. But I just want to let you know that we are working hand in hand. We support their expansion, and we have no doubt in our minds that the sanitary district will continue to work with the Pewaukee Yacht Club. They've been great neighbors since before I was born, and I don't foresee that changing. So we would ask that you recommend approval with the understanding we're going to work collaboratively. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Peter Ogden, W290N2171 Happy Hollow Road, 40-year resident of town of Delafield, and we are really lucky to have these guys on our lake, honestly. And so I would ask for your approval this evening to get their building in shape the way they want it. And this lake, as you guys know, is everybody's lake. And so these guys keep a really good, they take good care of the lake. And they need a new building. They need more space. And please take it to heart and support them and send it back with your approval. And Emily, I thought it was great to give a little history, which I think everybody, I didn't know some of that stuff, but I think it's just nice to have the history, so thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard on this matter?
Hi, my name is Kim Tornell, W283 and 2141 Beach Road, Pewaukee. I am a Town of Delafield lifelong resident, and I live on the lake, and I echo everything everybody has said. The Lake Sanitary District is amazing. I am here on behalf of the Pewaukee Yacht Club. I am the Vice Commodore of the Pewaukee Yacht Club. And I just want to say that we love our neighbor, we love the relationship we've created with our neighbor, and we want to keep that going. Their mission is incredible, to preserve our natural resources. But I do want to echo what Kathy said. We just saw the plans this weekend, and they're amazing, and we love them. We just want to be careful of our easements. We don't want any boats, masts falling off, people getting hurt, just a little safety concerns, and we love them and we know they'll work with us, but just to put that out there. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Would anyone else wish to be heard? Okay, so with that, we will close the first hearing, public hearing for tonight, and we will move on to the second hearing, which is regarding the Church of the Resurrection located on North Shore Drive, and its request to amend its conditional use permit. And so with respect to this matter, is there anyone who needs to present?
Do you want me to give a little overview?
Sure, if you
about it?
would.
Okay. So the Church of the Resurrection is located on North Shore Drive on the, I'll just zoom out here a little bit for the lake. So here's the church property in Pewaukee Lake. And it is zone R1. There is a conditional use permit for the church that was approved in 1999. There is a 2010 amendment to allow a daycare facility, which replaced a school that went in prior to that. The church is proposing to lease 2 underutilized Sunday school rooms to generate additional income that's lost from reduced membership over time. The size of each room is 14 feet by 22 feet, so 308 square feet. And it has its own entrance and is close to the parking lot. So all of the proposed uses will occur indoor. And potential uses could include many different items, things related to individual counseling, like feeding specialists, mental health, postpartum, nutrition coaching, youth or adult counseling. It could also be things like hobby and social clubs, educational and learning groups, like different study groups, after-school tutoring, book clubs, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, or a flexible workspace or satellite office. They do have a specific proposal that is included with this application for a secondhand art supply store called Art Parts Upcycle, which is part of this too because that has a small retail element to it. Their mission is to provide affordable access to creative supplies and experiences. So that would include new and used art supplies and art classes for kids, much of the material being donated. So the church just indicated that this type of business would be an avenue to increase their membership at the church through increased visibility, and which would be achieved by partnering with a business that has a community-driven mission. So the request is for the conditional use to be amended to allow for that type of use, and then subsequent to plan of operations for businesses, depending on what they might be, such as Art Parts Upcycle. So that's kind of a high-level overview.
Hi, all right. My name is Tyler Shaber. I'm president of Church of the Resurrection. Steve Berger was not able to make it tonight. He's on his way back from Fort Lauderdale. Wasn't able to make the meeting, so I'm here to talk about about Church of the Resurrection. Let me find, okay, which our location is W287N 3700 North Shore Drive. So basically, under Rebecca, we got your email. It was forwarded that you will give us a conditional use, you will be allowing us a conditional use permit for that site. Now we have to decide if Art Paris Upcycle is the right job for, or the right business for us, correct?
So, sir,
yeah.
let me just correct you. So it's actually the Plan Commission tonight.
Okay.
In item 4B will decide whether or not there's a
Okay.
conditional use permit modification.
Yep.
And so she can make recommendations, as the staff member, she makes recommendations.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, please. But she makes recommendations to the Plan Commission, and then we have a public hearing where anyone who wants to be heard, which is right now.
Yep.
Can be heard on this matter, and then we close the public hearing, we start the Plan Commission, and then there's discussion by the Plan Commission. But she makes recommendations at that point, and then we vote on them.
Okay. So basically, you understand the position that we are coming from. We are looking for additional revenues for our church. I think Up Paris Art Cycle has submitted a report to you guys on their business use plan. Basically, what the church is looking for is additional revenue for the church that would greatly welcome additional monetary things, potentially volunteer hours for our youth members, helping the ecosystem, less waste, less landfill reduction. Also, they are adding membership from Art Cycle, from arts and crafts lovers viewing our church, daycare parents using Upcycle for their kids, supplies and play dates, etc. Art Parts Upcycle would lease both rooms and would greatly appreciate and add to our financial outlook. Is there any questions that you have for me that we are asking to do? I mean, they are a nonprofit they are technically a nonprofit organization. Is this, I guess what I'm asking is, what do we need to do if Up Paris Art Cycle wants to rent the space from us? What do we need to do for you guys?
Do you want me to answer this?
Sure.
You're doing it right now. So,
Okay.
yep, so just Steve, I've been working with Steve. He
Yes.
made the application.
Yep.
Last meeting, he
Yep.
came to
We were
ask.
both-
Oh, you
yep.
were here? Okay.
Yep.
So that's what this process is then.
Okay.
So now you just have to let the process play out.
Okay,
So that's it. So there might be people who want to speak to it, and they can, and then we'll see what everyone has to say.
perfect. Does anybody have any questions for me before?
No, I don't think at this point. I mean, Mr. Berger answered a number of questions very well last time, so.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Okay, all right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
And does anyone wish to be heard on the matter of the Church of the Resurrection? And so if you just please provide your slip to,
Already got it.
oh, perfect, and so state your name and your address.
Name is Warren Elger. I live at North 35, West 28798, Old North Shore Drive. I've lived in that vicinity for 66 years. Now, I'm asking the board here, who's responsible for these letters? Because there's only a couple people that have gotten them. And there's a lot of people that are affected by this. Can anybody answer that?
Are you talking about the public hearing notice?
This right here.
Yep. So the requirement is for that to be sent within 300 feet of the boundary.
Yeah, but it
Which
affects
was
people
done.
farther out than that.
It's also noticed in the newspaper, so everything is noticed in accordance with the open records law.
We don't get newspapers anymore, honey.
Sir,
Yeah.
I would ask that you speak respectfully to our staff members.
I am.
Well, honey is not a respectful term to use in a public
Just calm
setting.
down now.
My
my question here is-
Sir, you know what? Please be respectful of everyone who's here and be respectful of our staff. That's what I'm asking. And so I'm not going to darling or honey anyone who's in this
Okay,
room.
are we done now? Can I ask-
You might be.
Can I ask
And
my-
so you're at 1 minute left, so
Well,
you
you
can
took
continue.
away some of that. No,
Sir,
so-
and as I can. You have 3 minutes, and if you want to use it to ask questions, you can do that.
Okay, my second question is the church tax-free? are they paying taxes?
That would be a question for the church.
But my understanding.
Now, if you put businesses in there, shouldn't they be taxed as a regular business?
It's generally a question for the assessor, which is something that we can ask them. What my understanding of how they look at these properties is they are going to take the square footage of that space and tax that accordingly, not as part of the church.
Well, I can understand that part of it, because I don't think they should be tax-free, you know,
Sure.
if they're a business. And, well, there's some other questions that people have to ask too. But this right here, nobody in the area has gotten it besides us and the Proxes. Nobody else got this. My property does not abut that church property. The Proxes property does not abut the church property. We don't understand why other people didn't get it, because they are in the area. It would affect them in one way or another. Do you have an answer for that?
Sir, this isn't a question and answer.
Oh,
So you
what-
can keep being heard. You can keep speaking, though.
Well, I came here for answers, for the questions.
There are statutory rules regarding notification. It is on the website with respect to all of our agendas are on the website and are posted. And this was also on the agenda last month. And so if people choose to be involved with their town, there are methods for them to do so and to be notified. And there are statutory rules which we comply with respect to notification.
I guess none of us can understand why other people weren't notified. We got one.
The answer's the same. I mean, I don't know
You know,
what other answer I can
If you
give.
said within 300 feet,
Yes, notices were sent out to properties within 300 feet of this particular property, and it was posted to the Waukesha Freeman.
well, there's 5 acres between my property and theirs.
We mailed them, that's all I can say. What happens after they leave is outside of our control.
Good evening. Please state your name and your address, sir.
I will. Dennis Merlin, North 35, West 28648, Old North Shore, Pewaukee. I've been there for 30 years at that house and 48-year homeowner in town of Delafield. I'd just like to say that the church has been a good neighbor. No complaints to this point. I mean, they've had a daycare over there. It's nice to hear the kids over there yelling. But I'm not for just allowing them to sub out some of their property for a retail organization. It's not zoned for that. And, you know, they're bouncing around ideas about what they're going to put in there, but that's not going to be part of the resolution if it were to pass. I'm just concerned that, you know, next thing you know, they're going to put in a Starbucks there and be serving coffee, and which to me is not a good thing. But at any rate, that's my concern. I don't think that it's necessary. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Jim Tweet, N35W28800 Old North Shore Drive. My wife and I purchased the land in '99, and when we purchased the lot, it was vacant. It's actually the first dot right on the curve, farthest one to the left. Yep, right there. And that was stipulation from the town of Delafield and the Waukesha County that was not to be used for commercial use at all. So I kind of have a hard time understanding how we can let them start to rent out spaces for commercial use at the church. Not only that, I know of people on that road that have kids go to the daycare, and anybody can go there now, other than the church members. We don't know who's going in there. You know, that's my point. I'm not in favor of this. Excuse me. And I lived right there for almost 26 years. I didn't get a letter to this meeting tonight. Nothing came to me. So I just heard through the grapevine. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known anything about it because I don't look at the newspaper or whatever, right? Is that what you said?
It's required to go in the newspaper.
Yeah, I
yes.
know. I
Yeah.
said, I mean, I don't use newspaper. But anyways, I have my concerns about, okay, if we let this go to a zone commercial, which I believe that's what it's going to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know.
That's, would not be, it would be a modification of the conditional use permit, but would not be zoned whatsoever commercial. Like
Okay,
that was discussed, just so you know, sir, that was discussed at the last meeting, and
Okay.
there was,
So
and I
the-
would invite
the
you to watch
spaces,
the last
You're
YouTube.
not deeming those spaces that they're going to be allowed to rent out commercial spaces?
No.
So how does that fall under, help me understand
It's a
that?
conditional, we'll discuss it in the meeting section, but there's a conditional use, and there's already current existing permits for the conditional use. One of them is not for profit.
Okay, because I just concerned other things going in there after the fact. You know, once the door is open, you know, what's to say if it was, and you just told me, they can't put a restaurant in there in 5 years or something, you know? So that was only my concern. And thank you.
No, and actually, one thing I want to note too, our meetings are on YouTube. And so, and frankly, we love having people here. We normally have a very quiet group. We like having people here. We like having people engaged and involved. We do have our meetings on YouTube, and if you watch, I believe it's still on. And so you can still go back and watch old meetings where we did specifically discuss, and I think the words I used were slippery slope, several times, as far as these rooms. So you can watch it, and all of the town of Delafield, the agendas are online for both the town board and then also for the plan commission if there's matters that you might be interested in the future. So that's just a general educational.
I would highly recommend everybody go to the Town of Delafield website, sign up for the e-notify, so they get all the agendas for the town board and the plan commission. So
Fair
they can
enough.
see what's happening.
Not a problem. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Okay. And so with that, then, I don't see anyone else who's indicating they wish to be heard, and so we will close the second public hearing that was being held prior to the start of the scheduled Plan Commission meeting. And so now it's 7:03, and we will start the Plan Commission meeting, and I will call the Plan Commission meeting to order, and I'll ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the February 3rd, 2026 meeting. And does anyone have any comments with respect to the first item on the agenda?
I second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then with respect to the next item on 3A, communications for possible, for discussion and possible action, Lake Country Clean Waters meeting, preserving our night skies, March 4th.
I just wanted to quick bring up a educational meeting that's happening tomorrow night that Terry brought to my attention that is either in person at the Pewaukee Public Library or there's a Zoom option. Is registration still open? I know it's tomorrow, but
The registration is required to receive the link. It's actually just a Zoom meeting. You can watch the Zoom presentation at the library, or you can just log on.
but just wanted to bring that up as something that people might be interested in regarding light pollution and shoreline ecological impacts. So just want to bring that up.
Yeah, and it's applicable, I think, especially with what we're doing. The town has looked at lighting in the past for businesses, for residential. We've got a lot of lake people here, and one of our speakers is about the ecological impacts. And the other speaker really speaks largely to municipalities and homeowner groups. So again, thank you for bringing it to the attention, and it's education. It will be recorded. But yeah, the registration link, you do need to log on to get it, and then we will have we have a series of educational meetings on the Lake Country Clean Water website. Our most recent one, and again, I know our town, and I'm grateful they looked at it, it was about the rising level of chloride in our lakes. And again, LPSD had talked about certain areas that we should be watching how we salt our roads, and, the town responded. And it's gaining education and making positive changes that really will help our community. Again, the last one was about chloride. This next one is about how can we light pollution is reversible. That's the beauty of it. So it's just learning specific things of what we can do with lighting without spending a lot of money, and the town taking advantage of some of the rebates, and use homeowner groups to do so too. And then after that, there'll be other meetings, but thanks for bringing it to the attention. And yes, it will be recorded after that. We have a library of meetings. So even if the county wants to, if you haven't seen it, you can jump on and learn more about the chloride meeting. Alan in your office obviously is real involved. Thank you.
Okay, anything further on the communications? No. Okay. And then the next item on the agenda, new business, is the consideration and recommendation to Waukesha County for conditional use for the Lake Pewaukee Sanitary District to make improvements to the existing Lake District Maintenance Building and site located at N22 W28024 Edgewater Drive, Tom Kep, Lake Pewaukee Sanitary District owner, and Keeney Architects applicant. And would you like to be heard, sir?
Just wanted to thank
Oh,
everybody.
please state your name, just for the microphone.
Tom Kep, Lake
Your business
Pewaukee
address, okay.
Sanitary District Manager. I thought, Emily, you did a wonderful job giving the history and whatnot, so you kind of did the whole presentation. I thank you for that. And Jason, you were excellent. Help along the way, and I really appreciate that. Very professional. I would just mention that, yeah, the building that we're in, it was built in 1941, so we've got 80-plus years of useful life out of it. The lake itself, from, Emily mentioned, we used to do chemical treatment and whatnot on the lake. I think you all remember the big algae blooms, or after the chemicals, you'd see the pea green soup, and you couldn't see the bottom 6 inches from the bottom. They started the harvest-only approach in the 80s, and that's where equipment started to multiply. So there's probably 7 times the equipment there was at the time when this building was originated. The lake itself, we are very, very fortunate for the people before me, honestly, and what they've done for the lake. That the Pewaukee Lake was considered a eutrophic lake, which has a lot of phosphorus, nitrogen, and a lot of algae blooms, and obviously a lot of aquatic vegetation. It has gone from eutrophic to mesotrophic. That's going in a positive direction. I think you see that with the clarity. You can stand at the end of your pier in times and see the bottom, or see a dime on the bottom. It's very unique for a lake to go from eutrophic to mesotrophic. In our world today, they usually are going in the opposite direction. So I'm proud of the predecessors that were there before me and doing what they are doing to make the lake better and better. And I think it's the best it's probably been in 40 years. There's always going to be aquatic vegetation out there, whether it's invasive or natives. It's a flooded swamp. There was a stream going through there, a river. They put in a dam. So the whole east end is a very, very fertile, shallow lake that will always have heavy vegetation, and that goes for the bays like Glen Cove and Our Park and some of those in the town area. So this operation, it's maintenance, and it's necessary to maintain the lake and keep going in the same direction. The equipment, like I said, has doubled. The staff, as Emily said, is up to 16 people. The building is one room, so when you're trying to scold somebody or talk about work ethics, there's no place to go. There's no heat in it, which I didn't mind because it's get out on the lake, but when you're trying to have a printer or paper, it's moist, it's wet, you can't fit the barge in the garage. And so you got to take it back to the other office, take it apart to get in that garage to work on it. Having that garage door high enough to get it in there, you're able to weld the machines, get them done, and then back in the water. So really, really a necessary and positive thing for the next 50 years going forward. So I just want to thank everybody that's helped with this, and I'm willing to answer any questions if anybody's got any questions.
Any questions from the commission?
Happy to hear that you're going to work with the yacht club to ensure the navigability around that building, because it's not fun trying to back up when you can't get around the building.
It's a unique site, very tight site, and we just squish in there, and we work great with the neighbors and helped with their easement for their project over there to get their cooking area in there and make it right for them. And we're doing the same to get around the building, having enough pavement to get the trucks around there. And we've been great neighbors, and we'll continue for the next 50 to 100 years, hopefully. So I appreciate the camaraderie and the friendship and relationships that we have.
I mean, overall, I guess I just want to comment, again, you're great for our lake. Thank you. So, and I'm wholeheartedly trust, what you guys are looking to do. Greatly appreciated the link you sent us. Tom sent the commission a link today, really, so we could see the inside. And I mean, I've gone by the outside of the building quite a bit. And for those in the audience and watching live stream, that was really telling, the condition of the building. So I thought that was really, thank you for sharing that. The one question I have, this is probably more for Rebecca. So I know there's a couple things that your suggestion was subject to with lighting. It says it's business. Are we looking at it as are we conditional use, residential, business, in terms of how are they going to classify under for outdoor lighting?
Well, they fall under the county zoning jurisdiction, so their zoning ordinance applies. When looking back at the yacht club's recommendation when they were going through their development, the town did review the lighting in the same way, so that was my suggestion, just to follow that they submit a lighting plan so we can make sure that it still falls under town code, which was the same thing that we did for the yacht club.
I thought the buffer, I mean, again, I know we're talking to the group that really believes in it, and I think that's what I'm grateful for, is that you're doing a shoreline buffer, with vegetation going through to the lake. You guys, if anybody get it, so I know I'm appreciative of that you're looking out for the health of the lake. Will the building still be, I know the comment said the goal is to get the big building in, but we're not changing anything with outdoor storage than what you already have. So what will still be out? Because right now will we still keep the harvesters out in the summer?
So it's exactly kind of what you see on there. For the winter, the barges are stored along that gravel driveway, which works good with the PYC because they're usually not having events, and we give them an easement to use that as parking and a driveway. In the summer, all that equipment is in the water, staged right next to each other. The only time there'll be a machine in there is if there's a breakdown or a leak or something, we got to get in there to quick do a repair. It just fits one machine. That machine would be in there for its repairs and then back into the fleet.
So the reason the extra amount, just again, this is for anybody watching and listening, the reason it's the extra extension is because the big machine doesn't fit in the building now, so.
Exactly.
And but you only bring it in kind of if you need to. It sort of sounds like it doesn't
Yes.
sit in there all the time. Okay. Just for anybody, I thought it was just good clarification.
Yep.
Architect going to speak.
You can, if you want, yep. Sure.
Any other questions?
Do you want to talk a little bit about, how is this being funded?
So it's part of the lake fees that we have. It would be a little bit of an increase. We're going into the financing and figuring out, we have an estimate, and we're going to go through the bidding and look at it. We've talked to our accountant on pushing it out as many years as we can, like 20 years, and having a loan that would be amortized over 20 years. A lot of the banks will amortize over 20 years, but it'll be a 10-year loan, then you refinance again. We're looking at fees that are probably an increase of 8 to 10%. We're trying to keep it down as much as possible, but it's about the average. Over the last years, we've tried to only increase it like 5%. So we're looking out as long as we possibly can and see if we can even go further than that.
Any other questions for Mr. Kopp?
Not as of yet. So
Okay.
I think we'd love to hear the
Okay,
architect.
so
Thank
please
you.
state your name and your business address.
Yeah, John Wallenkamp, CUNY Architects, 10505 Corporate Drive, Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. Who's got the best sheet to bring up? Maybe one of the rendering sheets?
Or do you want to start?
Start with the top one. So this is the view from the lake. The far right section is the existing part of the building. The existing part will be raised to allow for a larger overhead door, so that, as Tom mentioned, so the barges can fit in there and then they can lift and get clearances. Everything to the left of the taller section is the addition piece, which is going to the south. Within that area that you're seeing, the three glass garage doors, that's the open kind of lunch area where staff that's out on the lake during the day can come back and have lunch. There's restroom, locker room in there, and in addition, as Tom mentioned, a private area for any staff meetings, a small office area. Above that addition area is also a small mezzanine. The building's 100% maintenance-free with architectural metal siding, which is the light gray, or the wood accent members that you're seeing above the doors and adjacent to the windows. The overhangs would all have soffit light that would have cut-off fixtures on it, so from standing across the lake, you're not going to see a beacon of light. It's essentially just washing the facade of the building. The goal is to meet all the intentions of the light ordinance that was given. Standing seam metal roof. And other than that, it's really just to create an improvement for the building, but more importantly, safety for the employees working within the building throughout the season.
Function of the glass overhead doors on the.
Yep, the far right glass is more transparency for natural light to be within the building while they're working in there. And same thing with the three, is just to get natural light into the building and ventilation, that they could open those doors if they needed to for ventilation within the space too. So mainly just natural light.
Yeah, overhead doors instead of windows on the east half, the new portion.
Actually, because of the everyone on YouTube, you have to come up to the microphone. That's, I probably would, just for a minute.
So when the harvesters are out there, the harvesters are the yellow machines that are cutting, and then they get unloaded by the transporters. They're the big blue machines. There's always somebody back in the office, usually like a supervisor, and then one or two other staff that have been around for a little while that run those transporters, and they're basically looking to see when another transporter comes around the corner of Rocky Point. They see the transporter coming, they jump up and they'll start the conveyor or jump on a transporter to go where they came from to unload another harvester. A lot of times they're coming in, and I want these kids and try to train them that as soon as you see somebody, you get up, you start this, or grab a pitchfork, start that machine up, and it's a conveyor. Start it up so when the guy comes, he can hook up, unload on, they load up the truck, and then go. It's also when you're sitting in there in the storm, you can see a storm coming. We try to look at our phones, and we go to different stations and stuff, but sometimes you can see the stuff rolling in, and then you see the staff coming around the corner, and probably 10 times I've jumped in a truck and then ran to Rocky Point to dock them at a pier and just say, stop right here, get out of the truck, I'll take you back, we'll tie the machine up, we'll go back and get the machines later. So it is open air, it is open concept, it is visual to see what's going out in the lake.
So what I'm hearing is it's overhead doors for an operational reason.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me, for the gentlemen who are speaking in the back, if you'd like to speak during the meeting, if you could go, there's a seating area out there. Otherwise, I would ask that you please keep your tone down. Thank you.
And then the next rendering just gives you the street view, which brings in a similar flavor that's in the backside, but less windows from the street, but high clear story windows, they're going to bring in natural light. And we'd propose the district sign to be on the upper right of the facade that you see there. The large white mass you're seeing there is the communication, the tower that's currently on that site. That's nothing part of the building, that's just part of the tower that's currently there.
Rebecca, does Town of Delafield with that sign, is that a requirement or no?
It would fall under Waukesha County's.
Okay.
It's the same sign I think that they have now. Right?
Correct.
But
Yep.
is your current sign painted on the building? Yeah. Okay, these are channel letters, aluminum letters?
These would be raised channel letters, and then the sign would be a vinyl piece put on a raised piece off a.
So this is as if I was on Edgewater looking at you.
That's correct.
Because it seems like that's where you're going to get most of your sun. I mean, I know you've got your windows on the other side, and I get that, what Tom said, you want to see what's happening on the lake, but I'm just, right there is where I'm just surprised you're not getting as many.
Are
Just
there and the big one to get the sunlight in, and the other area
And the bathroom
down-
is-
That one wall is like the stairs to the mezzanine right there, otherwise there'd be probably another window there.
Okay.
And that's a mechanical room right there. You see, the one you're seeing, the bottom square right window, that's the mechanical room where it's HVAC and stuff. Behind that is the office, so, and then there's stairs up to the upper part, which is a mezzanine for like storage for
Okay.
paddles and life jackets and waders and stuff like that. So otherwise, there'd probably be a window there too to get light in.
okay. That was just my gut feeling, is just to
Oh,
give you
it's
more
a
light.
Good question, yeah, why not take advantage of more light?
Any comment on why the sign is on the roadside versus the current lakeside view of the sign today?
I think we have it on both sides, right? It should be on the lake side and this side. One on the lake if there's.
Okay.
Yeah, where that, I think we were headed on that angled part at one point. We think it should be on both, only safety reasons, 911 calls, and anything out on the lake, they can see where is the building and see the sign.
Any other questions?
I think it's an attractive building. I was just questioning what exactly Commissioner Schmidt asked about all the overhead lighting, I mean, the doors. Thinking more from a user, not so much on a commission level, but just as a user and the raised fees and, like, oh, that's a really nice building. It is a really nice building. So it's helpful, I think, to hear your functionality part of it.
Functional, yet it's pleasing to the eye.
Definitely pleasing.
Thank you, gentlemen.
How do we,
Oh,
just
go
have,
ahead. Oh,
before
sorry.
my question isn't really, but how do we, if we're going to, let's just say we're kind of talking through this, considering the questions that the yacht club has now, and I think those are valid about the, putting in, how do we, is that us to be talking about this now, or are we just putting this, and then a condition that they need to work that out?
It's a recommendation to the county, so you just put that as one of the conditions or recommendations. to the
That
county.
needs to get hopefully worked out with the neighbors?
Well, and I'm assuming there's an easement of some, it sounds like there's a legal easement between the two entities.
Right.
That's between the two landowners would be the easement, and that's typically a matter that's between the parties with respect to an easement.
Yes, I agree.
Yep, we're already talking, I'm talking to Kathy about it. We'll
No, I mean,
work on
it's-
drafting it together, and it helps both of us on both sides. PYC needs, the way to get around, and we use the ramp going up. So we have an easement from them, and they have an easement for us, so it works out real good.
No, I mean, it's rather obvious that there's a cooperative relationship between you and the yacht club. Okay. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Ms. Lay, did you have anything that you'd wish to present on these? And I think you can probably do your presentations on 4A, and I'll just read what B is for the
Sure.
record. B is the consideration and recommendation to Waukesha County of a site plan / plan of operation request for the Pewaukee Lake Sanitary District to make improvements to the existing Lake District Maintenance Building and site located at N22 W28024 Edgewater Drive, Tom Kep, Lake Pewaukee Sanitary District owner, and CUNY Architects applicant. And so you can present, and then, sir, Mr. Kep, do you have any additional presentation on that second item, or was it already presented? I'm assuming it was already presented, but already presented. I just wanted to verify. Okay, thank you, sir. And so, Ms. Lado.
I really don't have too much to add to what we've already talked about. So with respect to the conditional use, and it being a legal nonconforming conditional use, my recommendation is for approval for this to Waukesha County, and having them kind of continue on with their process and their review of all the final plans, especially considering it's subject to Board of Adjustment approval for the exact location and the size and all the zoning elements that fall with that. The operational details of this site are not changing. The use of the parcel is not changing. The outdoor storage isn't changing. So there's not anything different with that. The site itself is already impervious surface. They are adding a little bit of impervious surface closer to the shore, just to help with the maneuverability of the trucks, as we've been talking about. But then they're going to use their treated impervious surface standards that the county has, like Emily talked about in the beginning, to help account for that additional impervious surface. And will help also increase kind of the beautification of the shoreline there as well. So my recommendation is for approval of both the conditional use and the plan of operation as presented, with the conditions that the town engineer complete his review of the plans. He has not been able to finish looking at them, and when we discussed it, he didn't think that he really had much to comment on for this, but wanted to give it an overview, and then the lighting plan be presented as well. So I know that they're soffit lighting with cutoff fixtures, which is great, but just actually seeing what those foot candles are and just making sure that it's not any spillover light.
And so the first item would be then the consideration, or actually, does anyone have any questions for Ms. Lato with respect to 4A or 4B? So then the first item would be the consideration and recommendation to Waukesha County for conditional use for the Lake Pewaukee Sanitary District to make improvements to the existing Lake District Maintenance Building and site located at N22 28024 Edgewater Drive. Any questions, comments, discussion, or motions?
Should we motion them together or motion them separately?
I was going to motion them both together, A and B, and
Okay.
just recommend that we make a positive recommendation to Waukesha County for the Lake Pewaukee Sanitary District, request for conditional use and site plan and plan of operation amendments, subject to the town engineer's final review of the proposal and subject to the lighting plan being submitted for review by the town planner in conjunction with the town lighting ordinance, and then also ensure that any easements get worked out between the two parties. Boats and cars around the building.
I second the motion.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then the next item on the agenda is 4C, consideration and possible action to amend the existing conditional use permit for the Church of the Resurrection to rent underutilized space within the church, W287 N3700 North Shore Drive. Steve Berger and Tyler Schaber, applicant/owner. And so, Ms. Lato?
Okay, so right now, the conditional use, as we talked about last time, the approved uses are normal church functions, obviously, as services, committee meetings, fellowship groups, Bible schools, weddings, funerals, youth lock-ins, religious education programs, church picnics, and other outdoor sports and recreational activities related to church functions. So that's the current conditional use, which makes sense, obviously. We also talked about last time, and I'll just bring it up for people who were not here before. There are other churches in Waukesha County and everywhere that are facing the same issue with the declining membership and not having enough funding anymore. Two examples, local examples in Waukesha County were in the former town of Oconomowoc, there's a church that has the YMCA that rents out space and utilizes that church for those programs. And then there's a church in Genesee that has previously received conditional use amendment to do retail in the form of rummage sales outside of their space as well. So those were just kind of two examples of other churches who have requested similar things in the nearby vicinity. I'm sure there's more, but those are just two that I know of off the top of my head. So as you can see in my report, the size of each room here is 308 square feet, so they're relatively small rooms. And they have their own entrance and parking that would be close to it. And the types of uses that they're proposing are mainly pretty limited for the overall scope. It has to do with things that you would expect people to call a church and see if they could use their space for. If you turn to page 2 in my recommendation, it might be a little bit easier to look at some of those uses there. I've listed them, again, for the benefit of people online and here in the audience: individual counseling, support groups or peer groups, hobby and social clubs, such as monthly sewing or quilting groups, scrapbooking or photography groups, model train enthusiasts, game nights, or family and youth programs, such as parent and tot groups, educational prep courses or scouts, educational and learning groups, such as study groups, after-school tutoring or book clubs, or a flexible workspace or satellite office for people who work from home or may need just a space to go to do some additional work. So those are some of the uses that I think are very, very low-intensity uses where the church is looking to increase the usability of the spaces that are just sitting there, given the membership has declined. So with those uses, I've broken this up into 2 different things. So those types of uses that I just listed, condition that they would need to be entirely inside the interior of the existing building. Very limited signage for that, so there's only 2 spaces there, and the signage would need to be on the east, so the parking lot side of the building, not to exceed 3 square feet per tenant. And I chose 3 square feet, which is a small sign, because that's what the home occupation allows. So, and this is supposed to be a low intensity use. And then if you look down at, would be item number 4 on page 2, accessory nonprofit retail activity within the church. This is, I'm a little bit jumping to my recommendation, but just so that everyone can kind of understand that this is not a request to have Starbucks, for example, go into that building. So just to provide a little bit of clarity there. So accessory nonprofit retail activity, and under the following circumstances, with approval via plan of operation of the Town Plan Commission. And that would be that the retail activity needs to remain accessory and subordinate to the principal religious use of the property and shall not exceed 616 square feet, so the 2 Sunday school rooms. That it's community oriented. The parking requirements need to be in conformance with the zoning code. There's no merchandise display, storage, or sales activity that occurs outdoors. So all uses need to occur entirely within the interior of the building. And the operation needs to be conducted in a manner that does not generate traffic volume substantially greater than typical weekday church administrative use. And if the activity is utilizing both rooms, then 1 sign not to exceed 6 square feet would be permitted on the east, so the parking side of the building. So that's just a clarification of the kind of uses. Obviously, number 4 there, that accessory nonprofit retail activity is driven specifically because of the request for the Art Parts Upcycle, which is the nonprofit organization that would like to come in using donated and used art supplies. They create kits and then would potentially be teaching small group classes for kids of how to utilize these different art supplies that they're getting. So there's no changes to the site, including lighting, the dumpsters to access, parking, stormwater management, or signage related to any of the existing uses. And then the Art Parts Upcycle is a really separate matter. That's the plan of operation element. So the first step would be kind of looking to see if the conditional use request is appropriate for the site. And it doesn't need to be a all or nothing either, right? These are really kind of 2 pieces that could be part of the consideration here. And then the plan of operation for Art Parts Upcycle, if you feel that the accessory nonprofit retail activity within the church is appropriate, we can talk a little bit more about their specific business proposal under the next item of business. But something, I mean, you know, obviously what it is, and that's specific to what they're proposing, but I just want you to also think a little bit larger picture, because you need to think in the future, if someone came in, what would we allow, what wouldn't we allow in that small space? That's all I have for now.
Okay.
My only question is the flexible workspace satellite office. I know that's what he originally came in, and then we all just said, well, would it still have to kind of fall under this individual counseling, religious type of thing? Or, I mean,
Yeah, so I've tried to, as someone had commented during the public hearing, they're kind of mulling over what might apply, and I got that sense too. So after discussions with Steve, this is kind of what it boiled down to is what kinds of uses are you really looking for? And he said, well, we've been approached before for some counseling sessions of postpartum, having postpartum counseling, maybe because of the daycare there or something. And we just didn't have room at the time to do that. But he's like, now there might be. So we started talking about that and what other kinds of uses might a church use their space for. I know like a quilting group, my mother-in-law does that at a church. That's where she meets every first Tuesday of the month is where she is for doing that. So that happens in a lot of different churches, kind of using these different spaces for these small group community-driven things. So it's not necessarily a commercial business for any of those type items. It's pretty common. If you think about even like marriage and wedding classes, the church is getting a donation from those kinds of uses, right? Or even maybe charging for them to go to those types of marriage classes before you get married somewhere or whatnot. So it all is kind of related to that very, very low intensity uses that would not implicate the principal use of that building, which is a church.
Thank you for spending all the time putting all the details together based on our last conversation as a group. Thank you.
And so I know that you provided the Town of Delafield the decision worksheet. Do you need to go through that at all for the group?
We can, if you'd like.
I think it might be helpful.
Okay. So I did include.
Actually, if they can put it.
Oh.
Do you have it where I can go on the screen?
I don't. I can go to the website though, yeah.
You are much quicker than that, with that than I would have been. Much more efficient.
Okay, so here is the conditional use decision sheet for an amendment to their conditional use. So the conditions, and I know this looks a little bit different than before. Michelle and I had to kind of modify it to fit things in properly. So hopefully it still is in a readable format for you. But the first one was that the structure conforms to double the offset requirements of the district in which it's located, and no building can be closer than 75 feet to the lot line of an adjoining district in a district permitting residential uses. The existing building is 199 feet to the east lot line. There's no additional structures are proposed, so the condition is met. The height limitation of the district, I just had indicated it doesn't apply again because no structures are being proposed here and everything's happening within the building. The open space for the facility shall be a minimum of 50%. The development actually has 71.2% open space, and there's no open space. There's no site plan changes proposed, so the open space is not even changing. So yes, it's being met, but I don't feel that it applies. The site meets town parking requirements. The site plan does show 165 parking spaces. The church use requires 100. And the proposed use for art parts upcycle specifically requires 7. It's unclear to me from the town records how much the daycare actually requires. I believe that there's 14 employees. However, when you think about when the daycare is operating Monday through Friday and when church is actually in session on Sundays, there's really no conflict. And given these minimal uses in the 7 parking spaces, also which is not allowed to be operable on Sunday per the church, there's no conflicts with the church or with the parking requirements. There's no changes to the access, so the access locations meet site distance requirements. That was determined when the site was developed, and there's no issues with that. A traffic study shall be prepared to identify impacts to adjacent properties and roadways unless waived by the Plan Commission. I had just written that you'll need to determine if that's applicable in this case. If a traffic study is necessary for these types of low intensity uses. uses. Condition G is that the lot is at least 3 acres, and this lot is 10. For lighting, for condition H, no lighting installation shall be permitted that create a hazard to traffic, of nuisance to surrounding property, or the use of flashing or revolving spotlights and the like, other than traffic control lights, are specifically prohibited. There's no changes to the exterior lighting that are being proposed. And then the second section is the general conditions. So control of odor, all the proposed uses are controlled within the existing building and are of a nature where no odor is going to be produced. Control of fire and explosive hazards, same thing. There's no such materials that are being stored or used within the proposed, or within the building where this condition would actually apply. Glare, heat, and external lighting, all uses are going to occur indoors. It does not apply. The water quality standards, there's no changes to impervious surface or the building, so there's no changes to the water quality standards, so it does not apply. Noise, the uses are of extremely low intensity, specifically the uses that I had first mentioned, and no noise is anticipated beyond the walls of the building. Vibration, this does not apply to that. And the last one, the traffic impact. So same thing, you'll need to consider whether or not it's relevant to what we're discussing here, whether or not it applies.
So I think we need to discuss the traffic impact. My feeling is based on these very low intensive uses that are laid out in the planner's memo here. I don't applies to this case.
That's a motion, I second it.
On favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Now that we've addressed the traffic impact study and waived that, keeping score up here, and if those keeping score at home, I believe when through this, met every condition, every condition was met as we went through the decision seat. So, based on that, I would make a.
Wait, before you do a motion, can I make a comment?
Sure.
And I would have a comment too, yeah, go ahead.
So I think one thing that is the definition of nonprofit, because I know that this site there's a conditional use for, and one of, I think, the specific terms within the conditional use that's been granted is that it's for religious, and then one of the additional provisions was nonprofit. And so, as far as how are we, that has potential interpretations, like whether it's legally a not-for-profit or how they're going to term that. And I know the one that is causing me pause is the flexible workspace or satellite office, because work and office to me note for-profit. I don't know I don't know of any other way that you can have a workspace that you're renting out, like a co-workspace, that isn't for profit.
That was exactly what I had referenced, that one line also. So, but you had said because it was under the category that you're right, they would be collecting money if they're going to be doing counseling sessions, but because we're considering it a not-for-profit endeavor, it still applies.
And I think, I know that there's times that there's rawhide counseling, for example, at some of like their schools, that they have rawhide counseling, and they do have within individual, like, whether it's Catholic or Christian schools, I've seen it in both, that they have a counseling service that comes in that is a not-for-profit counseling service, but the company itself is not-for-profit. It's not like a Cornerstone Counseling having a satellite office out at this location, which is a for-profit organization. Right. So there can be counseling from what I understand, that can be not-for-profit organizations versus for-profit organizations. And so I do think that there's a distinction between the two, simply with the conditional use that's been granted. And I know we discussed that we don't want this to get to this is a residential area around it, and And so we don't want this to get to a commercial, commercial, whether it's office space or, and opening the door to that. Like, and frankly, the other question I have is that when there's retail activity, are they going to have to come in for approval every time that there's one of these? Like, how is that going to work with respect to if we have a new company that is a not-for-profit company that wants to be in there? Is it going to come before the plan commission and before the community or not?
The way I had set it up is yes, it would be a plan of operation. But you could require a conditional use amendment, which would require a public hearing too, instead. If it was something like that.
Well, the current one, I believe, said not-for-profit, because if I remember when we looked at it last time, I thought the last words, and I could look, I see that Michelle has it up.
Yep.
I know that the words were not,
Do you think you were maybe referring to because I had something in my report about how it's government and it was in the conditional use? Okay.
I can look as well, I mean, while others are talking.
Yeah, I don't see that in there. The plan of operation, which lists like the use of the property in the conditional use, I copied it verbatim in the staff report for like the approved uses.
I think it was the initial conditional use. I'll see what I can find. But Terry can keep going.
So, but yeah, as it relates to like the flexible workspace and satellite office, I think that's a good topic for a conversation I think when I talked to Steve, what he really envisioned was that like the way he was describing it is someone is working from home and all the kids are there and he needs to go somewhere else to like have some quiet. So like literally not a
Yeah, I didn't
business office.
envision
It's,
it as like every day during the week.
yeah.
You know, somebody was going to rent it as a flexible workspace or a satellite office. I understood it as if, you know, a church member or a community member, you know, had some meetings that day that they needed to have a quiet spot to go that wasn't a coffee shop or.
Yes. I kind of took it as like a library,
Yeah.
to be honest, if that's like what he's saying. So maybe that terminology is too strong.
I think for the satellite, I mean, because there are companies that are dedicated to providing
Sure.
workspaces outside of homes, and exactly what this is. There's actually companies.
Sure.
Buildings.
That's a good point.
I
Yep.
mean, there's one in Brookfield along, I think it's Wisconsin Avenue. They have
Yep.
a number of co-work spaces.
Yeah.
That you can rent, and they're actually rental by the hour. I understand the concept of it being a
Yeah.
church member. I mean, I've gone to my church and had to do a meeting in a side room, and I get, you know, a phone call or something. I've done that, but that's also, I'm not paying for it.
Yeah.
I'm just going and doing that.
Yep. I mean, so that could be a use that's just removed if it's outside of the comfort zone.
I mean, I feel like if they want to allow a church member to come sit, that's
Just
something
like
that
almost
they
up to the
provide to their
church member.
membership. Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
guess
a
I would just
membership.
remove satellite office and just say flexible.
I think that still is the co-work issue, is, you know, if you're renting it, or if there's any rental, because it seems like under all of these, like whether it's counseling or support groups, it should be by not-for-profit.
Yeah, they all kind of fall under the mission of the church or church business.
I think it would have to be though for not-for-profit like, for example, if it's individual counseling with a pastor and a a member, that's one thing, but if you have Cornerstone Counseling opening up an office that they can have someone that they're paying for, I think that's a for-profit. Yeah, I would just say, I think if it's under all of these, if it's not for profit, that would be my belief on what would comply with what the conditional use was it had to be not for profit.
Including 5. And that was what I was getting at, too.
I would just
is
remove 5.
You would just remove it, even if it was a flexible work satellite office for a not-for-profit. I guess that was a.
My imagination doesn't go that far. I guess that's where I'm saying, like, I can't think
I had
of
the
one.
exact same question, and that's
Yeah.
why I didn't know if we're calling it, if we're saying everything still has to be, a not-for-profit, then if it's a flexible workspace for somebody, I guess if we take it out, they'll ask if somebody really wants to come, they can, I guess, ask.
Correct.
Sure, that's true. So Michelle just read through that, it isn't seeing that in there. I do, could you go up to the staff report part? All right. Yeah, like one of the last lines of my staff report from last month was that the land use plan states that the lands are designated as government institutional, which represent, among other things, facility and grounds such as schools, churches, libraries, and cultural facilities and nonprofit charitable organizations. That's all I can think of where we were kind of in that discussion of that. So if you find
In
it.
in which document?
That was in my staff report from last month.
No, it
And-
was definitely in a legal document. I'm looking for it because because I lean towards those. It was either the conditional use itself or the order granting the amendment with the daycare. I'm in there.
okay.
And so I can look, and I am looking. so.
While you're looking, while you're looking, I'll buy you a smidgen of time. My only other question would just be, is this time, since we're going to be, looking at their conditional use permit, to just ask them to be compliant with their lighting? I mean, it's an opportunity. I know we talked about this at one point, that the only other time we would be doing existing people is that if they go and apply for a permit, or now they're applying for, just to ask them. I mean, the one fixture we saw, I mean, again, it's not that it was horrible, it's not shielded, and not that I want to have the church spend a lot more money, because I do respect the fact that you're trying to do things to, lessen your output, but that would just be my only other time. It's an opportunity to ask them to kind of just comply.
Sure, just for my benefit, because I'm not quite certain about what you're talking about. They are non-compliant with the town's lighting code right now?
I'm actually not exactly sure, but we did put, and that's what we did put in a business plan, and then we are, we put this one for new construction, and being that they're a conditional use, what does it fall under? That's really the question.
Well, I mean, what part of the building do we feel that they're out of compliance?
I'm just, there's outdoor fixtures, that's all. I'm just saying, if we're trying to do things to,
Cut off fixtures and they don't have the lights on.
Sir, if you could just, if you could just approach the microphone, please. Thank you. I'm sorry. All right. It's a very hard habit to get used to even if I'm not close, they can't hear it.
From my understanding, the church has not changed anything as far as lighting, signage, since we've moved into the building 27, 28 years ago. So if there is a non-compliance, we are not aware of that non-compliance. We are not, what we are looking to do is bring in additional revenue to the church. And I apologize to people that haven't been informed about it. And I know you guys have informed everybody and how you need to inform everybody, but we're not looking at putting a Starbucks in. We're not looking at putting a restaurant in. We're looking at renting 2 14 by 22 office buildings. I'm sorry that I'm looking at you. I should be looking out at everybody, but that's all we're looking to do, to bring in some additional revenue for our church. We are looking to follow the board's recommendations. So whatever we need to do to bring in additional revenue and to follow your recommendations, that's all we're looking to do. Yeah, please. Okay,
And I was there before.
yep.
But I can't see anything. Turn off the lights. But I mean, for my.
I would be certainly, I am the president of the congregation. I would be more than happy to talk to the people that are responsible for the lighting. I mean, the lighting is the lighting, but I would be more than happy to talk to the people about, reducing that for you. I have no problems with that whatsoever. Well, and most of that, most of our outside lighting is done on timers, so I'm more than happy to talk to people about that.
A few years ago, we did, as a commission and a town, send out letters to our constituents, including our churches, asking them to comply to some updated standards that the town has given. And so, again, undue burdens we do appreciate, but again, this meeting tomorrow, go on, you can learn some other energy ways to modify structures that maybe aren't going to cost you an arm and a leg. And that's kind of the whole point of what we can do to reduce our lighting so that exactly you can look out your window and see the skies.
And we have at the church, we have gone to all LED internally. We have gone to better, less efficient, or I should say more efficient lighting outside. And we continue to work at that because we understand that energy costs is part of our bottom line. So we are going to look at everything that we can to reduce our bottom line costs.
Well,
And I think what you're-
Time for them to look at our commercial lighting ordinance and try to comply to that.
Right, and I was going to say, LEDs are definitely here to stay, but even within LEDs, there's lower kelvins, there's things that can help your neighbors that
100%.
that we would just probably ask you to, and it would be-
Agree. I agree, and if the panel wants me to take a better look at it, I certainly will. Because we want to be a good neighbor to you guys. Yeah.
Oh. Any other questions? And then I was just going to, Ms. Lato is going to pull up the document. It's on page from the last packet.
Got it.
Okay. So just with respect to what I was referring to, this is, and if you can scroll to the top of that document.
Oh.
Just so we can all see it. It was the Town of Delafield order granting conditional use to the Church of Resurrection. So that's what I was referring to. And then if you can scroll down to B, please. And so the plan of operation, the use of the church shall consist of normal church functions such as Sunday, Saturday, and weekday services, committee meetings, fellowship groups, summer Bible school, weddings, funerals, youth lock-ins, religious education programs, church picnics, and other outdoor and recreational activities.
Yep.
So that was, and it was just whether for me, the flexible workspace, the rest of these can fall under not-profit or fellowship groups, but I don't know that workspaces can, so.
And I just want to clarify, the request is to amend that.
Okay.
That, like,
Plan of
that
operation?
specific, yes. Like, that is the request. So this document would be, you would add to it essentially, but you would include these additional uses, and I tried to lay them out that this is literally what you would put in there, barring any changes that you have, deletions or additions or whatever else you see fit. But just, I think it's important, if you're inclined to recommend to the town board approval for this, to really list out what may or may not be allowed. And it would be in this document.
I mean, it would seem, as far as just like wording, the permitted, for your wording and your recommendation, permitted uses may be expanded to include the following for not-for-profit groups, semicolon, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, you could just add that term and then modify each of the underlying conditions other than, it seems like 5,
Sure.
to be modified by the terms not-for-profit.
Can I ask a question of all of you? Let's say you do give us the conditional use permit for that. Am I mistaken that the people that are applying to use that space do not have to come to you guys and get a conditional use permit for that space? I mean, and maybe I'm using the wrong.
I think it's plan of operation.
I mean, a plan of operations. So if you give us the conditional use permit, the people that will need the space will have to come to you to apply for the
Plan of operation.
plan of operations.
Well, and that's what the next item on the agenda is
Right.
for the art group.
Yes, yeah, no,
But-
no, I'm just trying, Steve has handled this. Steve is not here right now. I'm trying to get up to speed with this, is basically all I'm trying to.
But just for some clarification, so the first, number one here, the first uses that I've listed is the counseling, hybrid social clubs, et cetera, 1 through 4, I would not have them come forward with a plan of operation for those types of uses. That was not.
Correct. I mean, if you're
Okay.
having a parent task
Yes,
group.
yeah, that was intentional, right? So that's why I have kind of the next one separated out.
I think that if, for me at least, if the term for, under 1A1, the permitted uses may be expanded to include the following not-for-profit activities, semicolon, and then with just the following not-for-profit activities, that would be the addition, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, I think that would modify it sufficiently to not allow commercial, because none of us want commercial in this space. I mean,
We
it was.
don't want
No,
commercial
you don't
in this
either.
space.
But it's also
Exactly.
when you're broke, you know, when, if you're running out of money at some point, we don't want it to be let's start adding commercial things, because the residents around it relied upon this when it was.
I understand your point.
I don't know what everyone thinks about that.
No,
That terminology.
No, it gives assurances to the town and gives assurances to the neighborhood that opening a door to a bunch of commercial activity happening at this location.
And that's not our point.
Right.
Okay, so I think, are there other comments or additions?
Are we striking flexible workspaces instead of?
I'd like to. And I think, Terry, what's your thought on striking flexible?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, if it really comes up, I'm sure that somebody will ask if they're trying to figure out a way that they could work there. And if it's a parishioner, that's really, I think that's up to the membership. That's up to you as a president to,
Right.
just like you said, but when we're a church, we oftentimes have to step away to conduct a little business. But
I've done it more than once. And so and I think but that's also not renting. That's just someone utilizing the space that is a parishioner. Okay, so then
what do we think? Do we want to talk a little bit? Do we want to, you're working a little bit, we talked a little bit about, the neighbor with lighting. Do we want to say that now is a good time, since we're updating the conditional use permit, to just look at the outdoor lighting to make sure that it's compliant with our commercial lighting ordinance that we already have out there?
I think I guess I'd like them to. The only hesitation I have is I don't know at this moment if it's going to cost them tens of thousands of dollars. Like, that's the only, I don't want to find out that they have to replace a bunch of fixtures, which I think was never the intent, as far as turning off at nighttime. That's the only concern I have, is just the unknown of, I think, it would be helpful if you work with the neighbors and maybe had a listening session about your lights. I mean, just as a suggestion,
Nope,
and maybe
I
sent something
appreciate
out
that.
to the people right around you and had a discussion. But I'm just concerned about the
Right. And
not
as I said,
knowing what.
I think if anything, it's an opportunity to educate them on their lighting and more neighbor-sensitive lighting,
And we are extremely receptive to that.
Yeah, no, and I know because we know when the church on Silvernail, I mean, when they didn't have lights at one point when they were building, I think there was vandalism, and so that was why they put the lights on. But they made sure that there's 0 candle foot. There were the lighting at the
It's 0 foot candles at the property line.
Yeah, thank you. So they were in discussions with how to manage that. Even though it's bright at night, it doesn't extend past the lot lines, and so.
Which church?
Dayspring.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gotten better. That's because they've toned it down inside, yeah.
No, I hear you. I've heard the nicknames, so I remember one meeting, it was very hotly discussed. So I think, are there any thoughts or motions?
Well, we went through the decision sheet. All the conditions were met from my score here. I think we make a motion, I move to recommend to the town board approval of the conditional use for the Church of Resurrection as presented by the town of Delafield planner, and agreed to by the applicant, that we are, as the plan commission, strike 5 flexible workspaces or satellite offices, and we had the nonprofit.
Nonprofit activities.
To include only, if applicable, the conditions stated within the conditional use order shall be modified in a manner described. Recommend to the town board that we approve it with those conditions based on it.
A second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. And then the next item on the agenda is consideration and possible action on a plan of operation request for Art Parts Upcycle to operate an arts and crafts business inside the Church of the Resurrection, W287 N3700 North Shore Drive, Steve Berger and Tyler Shaber applicants. Sir, do you have any additional presentation on that?
No, I think Steve has pretty much filled everybody in on what, let me just run back to grab the.
Sure, absolutely.
While you do that, I'll give a little overview of what I have. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay. So our parts upcycle is kind of that second part of the conditional use here, right? The accessory nonprofit retail activity, and I went through those kind of conditions with that. So kind of keep those maybe handy as you look towards it. But their mission is to provide affordable access to creative supplies and experiences, and they describe themselves as a thrift store of affordable, new, used, and free art and craft supplies that relies on donated art supplies. The owner and operator would make selected art kits for kids to encourage creativity. The space would be open to the public and would include retail sales, and small group art classes for children may also be conducted. So their hours of operation proposed are 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. No Sunday hours are permitted. Obviously, church is in session. And then employees, there's just one part-time staff person. I already kind of covered the parking a little bit, but just as a reminder, this use specifically requires 7 spaces, and there's no conflicts with the parking on site. Signage, just existing signage on that site. There's already 3 signs on North Shore Drive. So in the conditional use, and then here too, I'd also continue to recommend that no additional signage along North Shore Drive be permitted, but just those small 3 square foot or 6 square foot signage on the parking side of the building. And then the dumpsters, the existing dumpsters are located on the northeast side of the parking lot. They're already screened with a fence. And when I talked to Steve with the church, he'd indicated there's adequate space for any sort of refuge that this use might actually create or generate. So I felt that this proposed use, when I was thinking about sort of the retail element, which is challenging, right? But thinking about it being an accessory nonprofit retail activity where the principal use is still remains a church, I felt could fit under that mission. And the condition here I have is that just sales need to be limited primarily to donated and used art supplies and not any other type of retail activity, not T-shirts and, random items like that. It needs to be the art supplies that are a part of this business and mission. So the proposed use and the just kind of the justification and reasons, just again for people who may be watching online in particular, the proposed use is intended to support charitable and educational purposes through the redistribution of donated art materials and won't operate as a conventional for-profit retail establishment. So the use as presented meets the conditional use conditions and would occur entirely within the building and be accessory to the principal religious use of the property. And the business will use donated materials and will serve the community through free and discounted art materials and kits and classes, which is compatible with the institutional land use designation and is not expected to impact adjacent land uses. So my recommendation was for approval, and there's the few conditions there in the recommendation that the CU has to actually be approved by the town board. The operator needs to sign an agreement that they've read the conditional use permit and agree to the terms of that condition, of the conditional use. And that the sales are limited to donated and used art supplies, and that if they want to sign, they need to get a sign permit. And that's more kind of for the applicant to be aware of, so.
Before we go through all this, you kind of were like a little loosey-goosey yourself, like, well, we have to decide if this is even for us. So, I mean, that's my question, I guess, to you.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Well, the arts, the parts upcycle.
Yes.
You seemed, when you originally came out, you acted like you weren't even sure you wanted them. So I think before we further discuss this.
No,
Or maybe I
sorry
misunderstood you.
If I gave that impression, no. They are going to be able to contribute. They're going to be, if you recommend that they can stay there, they're going to contribute $750 a month to the church's bottom line. So as long as they come to us, discuss what their plans are, as far as if it varies from what this sheet says, we don't want art classes. We don't need 20 kids coming into our thing. So we are, to our understanding, what they propose to us is what we are accepting and saying, this is what art parts upcycle is. Okay? They've come to us with other things, with other proposals, and we've said no. And we've said no because they aren't technically part of our church yet. But so what we are, I guess what we're trying to say is what Arts Parts Upcycle, their business plan, that is what we are here to accept for what they are planning to do. Does that make sense? I mean, their business plan is what we are agreeing to.
Yes, it does make sense to me. I just have you just said that you would not entertain her doing any kind of art classes.
Well, here again, we're a church. We're renting out 2 of our spots. We have open doors to our church, our fellowship hall, our sanctuary. So no, we are planning to accept what their business plan is.
Okay, so that is just a difference from when I originally talked to her, which was months ago, about it, and she is not did not contact me. So I guess if
we're willing to accept this as their business plan.
So
yes,
I think, okay, so I guess I just want to make sure I understand this. Do we have the right applicant here? Because technically,
so I asked that question as well because I wanted her to apply and separately, and the church said we want to apply on her behalf because they would like to control the use of
Correct.
what is in that space, which is fine. So I did add the classes because she had said that, and I just didn't want it to be left out and then her to have to come back later. So I think that's just kind of easy enough. If that's not something that you're willing to entertain, it doesn't even really need to be, it doesn't need to be on the table at all. I just want to make it clear then for the record.
Okay.
That that's not a part of the proposal. So that's just a mistake on my part.
Whereas we as a commission probably would have been okay with the classes, but it sounds like you're not.
Correct.
Okay.
So let me just ask this: if we have a recommendation that says the operator shall sign an agreement provided by the town planner, is the operator the church or Arts Parts Upcycle?
The intent is Art Parts Upcycle, so the operator of the space, and
Okay.
we could clarify that.
Arts Parts Upcycle will be signing an agreement with
The town of Delafield, yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
We just wanted to apply because we had been working through the process.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But did, Mike, hearing what we just said though a few minutes ago, is that anybody else wouldn't have to come before us if they, as long as they fall under these categories of the individual counseling hobby? Isn't that what we said, that now they really
This
don't
is
have to
part,
get?
this is number 4 of the conditional use, that accessory nonprofit retail activity.
So the counseling in those first four
so
numbers.
those
These were the
don't have-
two, there was
Okay.
2 separate,
Oh, oh, yeah, okay.
Yep.
Their family or youth program. Okay, yeah, okay, got it. So it's down here. Okay.
yes, because I don't think that this is, that if someone comes forward with this type of proposal, it's
Okay.
definitely a
Yep,
plan of
all right, I get it.
operation
Thank you.
change and needs approval.
I think I'm just still stuck on who the appropriate applicant, I understand that the operator has to sign the agreement. And so technically, are we saying then the church I'm struggling
Well,
with,
we're amending the conditional use that the church has.
Yes,
So it's
no, and we
appropriate
did
that
that,
the
yeah.
church is here.
that was
Yeah.
that was the number, that was C, so now we're in D.
Yeah, so the church is really what's being granted, the art part upcycle plan of operation, which is confusing, and it's not my favorite thing either, but that's what they wanted to do,
Okay.
so.
And I'm assuming that they wanted to do, so it's more like the church is requesting the ability to allow someone to run this business within their space, or
Yes.
this function within their space, because
Yes.
technically the church isn't the operator.
The church is the
Artworks
owner
upcycle.
applicant, yes.
Okay, so that's, I think,
Just to ask you a question moving forward, I hope our Arts Parts Upcycle is there for 20 years and everything's good. 2 years, if Parts Art Cycle.
doesn't roll off the tongue. I mean, we're all
Yeah,
struggling with that.
sorry about that. If Up Parts Art Cycle is not a part, if it is not a part of Church of the Resurrection anymore, I would expect them to have to come to you for a usage.
Well, no, you're, that,
Well, no, we're,
this is your house. I mean, like,
no,
this
no,
is your
no, no,
thing.
no, I agree with that, but do they not need to get a conditional use permit or
That's what this, so the plan of operation is a separate process.
Yep.
Think of it as like a business proposal.
Yep.
Essentially, so that falls underneath the conditional use permit.
Right, and if we agree to Up Parts Upcycle under this, if they leave, then,
If they leave, they leave. There's nothing you have to do,
no,
but
no, I understand that, but if somebody else wants to move into that space,
and wants to do some sort of
something.
accessory nonprofit
something
retail
similar,
activity
Nonprofit or whatever, they would have to come,
and get a plan of operation,
correct.
not a conditional use.
Right.
Yeah.
So what, I guess what I'm saying is, if you agree to forget it.
You almost had it.
Not so.
APU. If you agree to APU coming in here, if they leave, anybody else would have to come to you for a,
It would just depend on what they are. Like if they were a family or youth parent or tot group and they fall under this original, the first
Yes.
few, then they wouldn't have to.
I guess my suggestion, sir, is
It'd just
if
always
and
be best to
when
ask.
that happens, why don't you just talk to the town staff?
Yeah.
Because we can spend a lot of
and-
time, going
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
about this, but
Yeah.
like if it's in 20 years.
yeah. Yeah,
Just
we're-
talk to the
We're
town
all
staff.
good, yeah, I
all
got
right.
you. All right, thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Well, I recommend that the Plan Commission approve the plan of operation for Art Parts Upcycle at West 287 North 3700 North Shore Drive, subject to the following. Subject to the town board approving a conditional use amendment for the Church of the Resurrection to allow for the expansion of uses. The operator shall sign an agreement provided by the town planner that states the operator has reviewed the conditional use and agrees to abide by the conditions noted therein, in addition to any conditions outlined specifically herein as plan of operation. Sales should be limited primarily to donated and used art supplies, and a sign permit shall be obtained if applicable.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck. And then the next item on the agenda, unfinished business, 5A, consideration and possible action on plumbing within an accessory buildings policy. Ms. Lado?
Just need to find my right page.
Oh, all good.
Here we go. Okay, so in front of you, you have a draft of the policy document that has the information that we discussed in February. And I just have a purpose and intent statement in there as well. So it's clear when people are saying, you know, why is this happening? It's that information is there. And then the policy standards themselves. So the permitted plumbing would be limited to limited plumbing may be permitted within an accessory building. Limited plumbing is defined as one sink and one toilet. And then for pool houses, a pool house that is incidental to the use of a swimming pool may include one stand-up shower, provided that access to the shower is solely through an exterior door. The deed restriction requirement, when limited plumbing is proposed, the property owner shall be required to execute a deed restriction prepared by the town. Said deed restriction shall be signed and recorded with the Waukesha County Register of Deeds before issuance of a building permit. I would add in there, signed and recorded by the owner, property owner, not the town. Sanitary approval, prior to issuance of a building permit, the building inspector shall verify that the proposed accessory building with limited plumbing has received approval from the appropriate sanitary authority. Acceptable approvals include the Waukesha County Environmental Health Division through preliminary site evaluation or the Lake Pewaukee Sanitary District. Life safety requirements, smoke detectors shall be required in any accessory building area that is finished, including but not limited to recreational or hangout spaces, and prohibited uses, kitchens and kitchenettes, regardless of size or plumbing configuration, and business operations. Which I can probably remove that are prohibited part.
One question I had was, so the pool house, would there ever be one by the lake? Because it's incidental to the use of a swimming pool.
No, a pool house would not be by the lake. If it's within 75 feet of the lake, it has to be a boathouse, and then it has to be actually within 35 feet of the lake.
And then the boathouse has no plumbing.
The boathouse has no plumbing, and it's all regulated by Waukesha County. So the boathouse stuff is specifically left out of here because the town will not have any review over the use of a boathouse. A pool house would have to meet the setback requirement of Waukesha County or Town of Delafield, whichever type of property it's on, right? But then there could be that limited plumbing in a pool house with a shower, but that would not apply in Waukesha County's jurisdiction. They wouldn't allow that, as far as I'm aware. And it would only be through an exterior door.
Okay, understood.
Does that make sense? Okay. So I have also included just kind of a draft deed restriction here too. Of this is what it would generally look like, and then I would just fill in the blanks when someone actually applies.
And when the house sells, it just stays with the property.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
confirm
yeah,
that. At
so
one
when
point,
you,
we talked about it, then when like they sold the house, they would have to get rid of it, but that's not a good idea. That we should just stay with the property.
yeah, it would just stay with the property. So what it does when it's recorded is that when someone buys the property, right, there's a title search that's on it, it'll pop up, and it's up to those owners to read through their documents before they sign something to buy the house. But it's there to lean on.
Okay. I mean, this is, at least as far as I'm concerned, this is exactly what we discussed. I mean, and it was very well drafted, so, you know, kudos to you, Ms. Lado, because it's very clear, and I think, you know, the building inspector indicated he wanted clarity, and it certainly seems that, you know, with that amendment that you added, signed and recorded by property owner, it seems like it satisfies the discussions that we all had over several sessions, and also the building inspector's request, to me.
No, it captures the essence of everything that we've discussed over the last couple of months regarding this issue. Pass it along to the town board and see if they want to make a policy decision.
While we have Mr. Kep here, would it be okay for him to speak
Sure.
on this?
Sure.
Do you have any kind of comments on what you just heard?
If you can get a microphone. I know, I know.
So we did talk about it at our commission meeting, and Rebecca had that kind of laid out for us. So I shared that with the commission, and we were on board with following the same protocol that the town is doing. There would just be a charge for a rue or whatever gets decided at our next meeting after you guys adopt it. So totally on board, and hopefully we can get that guy that's hanging out there squared away too, so.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And thank you for being here tonight. And I don't know you, but it seems like you are a great steward of the lake, and you know what you're doing, you know how to take care of it, you know how to train your, young employees, so thank you for everything you do.
Do we need to put anything in there? I mean, I know it's really not us, it's LPSD, about the RU? I mean, that doesn't apply to us? I mean, it's more just informational. I don't know how important it is that they can, or put in there that they should.
But this isn't specific to sanitary district property. This is
May
town.
not be, you're right, but
It would be covered under sanitary approval, and if it's within LPSD would be responsible for communicating the additional charge once they agree on whatever.
so
that
it's something
is.
more we need to tell our building inspector, right? That
Well,
he
it's in the
knows that,
sanitary
right?
approval there,
Yeah,
so.
sanitary approval is, it's either septic county or it's sanitary district. It's
And I think what's the technical word? The policy includes that they have to get sanitary district approval from whatever district is. It's already in it's already baked in, I guess is the best way to put it.
I could word that a little differently, I think, to maybe take some of the burden off of the building inspector to verify that the property owner shall provide documentation to the building inspector, and then maybe, Tom, there'd be, like Waukesha County has a preliminary site evaluation, which is a memo basically saying you're approved.
Yeah, I think the essence of what you have captured here was to assure
Yeah.
that the building inspector is confirming with either Waukesha County if it's on a mound or septic, or LPSD if it's in sanitary sewer.
Yep.
That they agree that he can issue the building permit.
Yep.
That they've all talked.
I mean, and I see what Ms. Lato's saying, it says the building inspector
Yeah.
shall verify. Does it mean, should we say that the homeowner shall provide the building inspector with verification? Or shall, like, just to put it
At the
on,
end of the day, the buck stops with the building inspector.
Okay.
Because people can do bad things if they want to.
Yeah.
And the onus is really on the building inspector to ensure that he's reached out to either Waukesha County or the sanitary district to.
I think typically with permitting, it's really the burden on the resident to give the building inspector everything that they need
Right.
to issue a permit, right? So I think it might just be better worded to be like, property owner, if you want this, then give that documentation from LPSD or environmental health that you have approval, which might require you to make some kind of memo of like, yes, they've approved, they've paid, proceed, or something to that effect. Yeah. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, it's necessary for her to put it in, Tom? Does it help you, or does it help, I mean, I'm just,
It does help, because sometimes things don't happen or all of a sudden.
Yeah. Right. Well, the way I have it, I guess my point is the way I have it worded is you're having the building inspector chase documentation from others when it really should be the person trying to get the permit. They should
Yes.
get, that's all it is. That's all I'm suggesting. So,
I think that sounds like
agree.
that's a smart wording change.
Yeah, that's how permitting works.
yeah. Okay.
And so I think then we don't have to do any motions on that issue, it's just, or do you want a motion on that issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
so we're just motioning to recommend to the town board?
Yes, I think
The-
with the amendments requested by the town engineer.
Yes. So I'm motioning the recommendation to the town board with the minor recommendations, Rebecca will add, actually, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then the next meeting is May 5th, 2026. There is not a meeting in April due to the elections.
Should we need to mention there might be a special? Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Nay. Motion carries. Have a good evening, everyone.
8:31.
Thank you, gentlemen.